So you started selling and sales might be looking good. But one thing that a lot of founders or brand owners or new brand owners haven't thought of is the return. What happens when your returns start coming in at levels that maybe you have not anticipated, or maybe you didn't think about a return rate thus far. Now, return rates, especially for footwear, can hit anywhere between 15, 25, or 30% just purely due to sizing. And during this process, there's also defects that maybe you need to report back to the factory because perhaps their QC didn't catch it, your QC didn't catch it, and it's happening as the process goes on. Or maybe it's because when people start wearing it, these defects start to show. Now it's possible depending on how many pairs of footwear or whatever product, as long as it's a large amount that you're not able to 100% QC all of the product. So you will get defects that happen, when customers get it and or wear it for a while, and then you get that feedback, and you also need to pass that back to the factory. So today we'll talk about two main things. One is when you receive the returns back, whether you're using a third party logistics or doing it yourself, how to set up a grade A, grade B, grade C standard to know what to do with different types of returns and depending on how the product looks. Two is communication with the factory or a factory clawback. Depending on the types of returns, we have that data, then how do we use it to talk to the factory to see what are the remedies? Are they going to pay you back for some of it? Are they going to produce a different batch and send it to you for free or for a lower cost? There's different mechanisms that might happen when you get a large amount of returns back due to a potential defect that could be the cause by the factory. Hi, I'm Ivan, and our company has moved more than 10 million pairs of shoes worldwide for some of the largest retail brands in the world. And I'm here to share some of our, sourcing and supply chain related knowledge and experience with you guys. If you guys are interested, you're a first time brand owner or you're thinking about becoming a brand owner, then please like and subscribe and leave any comments below if there's any questions you want to ask, or if there's any other topics that you would like us to talk about. So, in terms of starting to get returns, you should have established some sort of a benchmark. And from a general sense, there could be, for example, grade A, grade B, and grade C, of which benchmarks are established in terms of when you receive a product back, you open it, or the warehouse or your third party logistics provider opens it and checks for various things, depending on the product. So, going back to footwear, does it still look wearable? Is it dirty? Are all the parts and everything intact? The outsole, the insole, and everything. How does it look like? Um, and look and feel, the colors off. What is the customer complaint? And looking at those, you need to have a specific grade A, B, C grading for when the shoe comes back. So grade A could be that, oh, it's still sellable. Maybe you need to just wash it or do some minor cleaning or adjustment to it, and it's still wearable and sellable. And so you can do that and then sell it again. And grade B, perhaps that, okay, it's not really sellable, but grade B could mean that, okay, it's not, or at least it might not be sellable to your main platform. So let's say it's Amazon, right? And they want everything brand new. So maybe grade B cannot be brand new sellable, but it could be going to a liquidation platform, or maybe through other wholesale channels where, of course, maybe you're going to make a little less on the sale, but you may want to get rid of that, just because leaving it in your warehouse, it may not be a good idea anyway. You want some of that cash back. And grade C is, there are defects that just make it not sellable, and neither can it go through liquidation or, of course, your own official channels or whatnot. So you need to establish that standard and stick to that standard, so okay, which type of shoes fall into where, and have all that data. Whether it be you need to train the warehouse company that you're using, or if you do it yourself, great. You have all that data. You have pictures. Pictures are very important, so everyone knows, okay, what does it look like? What's the standard that's set to be grade A, grade B, grade C, checklists and things like that. And once you have that data, then you can figure out, okay, if there's a lot that is in grade C, which, as I said, is a lot of defects that just make it somehow not sellable anymore. But of course, you need to figure out, is it because, for example, of the customer? The customer did something to it so that it's, but the outsole fell off, but perhaps it's not because of the manufacturing, but because the customer used it to do something. So sometimes you don't know, but you need to figure those out. And you just also need to look at the sheer size. So if I have a production run of 2,000 shoes, and after a month of selling, you have a good 300 of them coming back to you, which is 10% or more, at the grade C level, not in general, but at a grade C level, and all of them are around the same type of defect, then it's probably a manufacturer defect, right? You have to do some investigation, but it's very potential. It's a manufacturer defect. And that's when you go into our second point. So you receive all these, grade C defect items back, and you notice, for example, it's something to do with the outsole that people say, oh, after wearing it for a couple of weeks, it just kind of falls off or parts of it are falling off. Then you need to investigate. Is it something to do with the glue? When the manufacturing process happens, and you need to write it all down. You want to have all your data, your photos, the reviews and everything, gather all that data, and you need to use that and go back and talk to the factory. So normally you might have something called a defect claim report where you put all of this together and you provide it to the factory, and you need to discuss it with them and tell them, okay, this is happening, so we have this many shoes, and according to our previous agreement, which hopefully you would have some kind of agreement, and how do they remedy these kind of things, what are we going to do? Are you going to, based on an agreement, send me equivalent amount of these new shoes at your own expense, or maybe you need to pay for shipping or something? I don't know, but there should be something agreed upon already, and you just act accordingly to that. But let's just say you don't really have anything, so you need to negotiate with the factory then and figure out, okay, these are the defects, and we need you to help us remedy it in some way. And you need to negotiate with them whether it's going back to, you going to pay for it at a lower price, maybe at a discount, or are they willing to do it and send it to you? Maybe you pay for shipping. That's kind of the negotiation. If you don't have this prior already, you don't have this agreement, and your kind of leverage here is that, will you be a long-term buyer? Like, will I buy next time from them? That's kind of the factory's thinking, right? Because other than that, to be honest, you don't really have much leverage with the factory. They're overseas, you're overseas. You can try to, do some kind of claim with them. It might take a long time. It might be, some legal battle that you might need to do, and it takes, might be more time and money than the actual worth of the product. So you need to think through that and figure out what is your leverage. So if your leverage is that, okay, I might buy again, then you need to figure out how to convey that, and leverage that so the factory will help you remedy it, and help you out in this case. Now, I'm not saying all factories will kind of ignore you or try not to help you out. But of course, as I say in this channel, we're trying to think of worst case scenarios so that you're prepared for it and you know what to do moving into negotiation. Because, if best case scenario happens, you send them the report, they look at all the defects, the reviews, and there's like, okay, cool, we'll just, make the new ones, 300 of them, and send it out to you. Then, great, you don't have to do too much negotiating and everything. But if that doesn't happen and you do need to negotiate and keep talking to them about it, then that's something you have to keep in mind. Okay, so when you start receiving returns, you need to already have an established grading system so you can categorize your products depending on the level of damage, or they can be resold or whatnot. And based on that, you also need to take the ones that are defective and because of manufacturing, investigate and go back to the factory and talk to them. So hopefully that is something that, if you're starting to sell, you start to think about, or if you haven't started to sell, you plan out, you should think about it at some point in time. And if this was helpful to you, please like and subscribe and share. And again, if you have any questions, please leave a comment below. Or if you have any other topics that you'd like us to talk about, then also leave a comment below. And thank you, and see you in the next one.